I've always had a thing for abandoned places, old factories, forgotten hospitals, train depots rotting with graffiti and mold. Urban exploration was my obsession, and I never went anywhere without my GoPro flashlight and a backup battery pack. That's how I stumbled across the tunnels under St. Gabriel's Church in Philadelphia, completely by accident, while researching a different site online. Someone mentioned the sunken sanctum under St. Gabriel's, a supposedly sealed basement beneath the church that once housed homeless shelters and a mental care ward in the 1920s. There were barely any photos, just rumors. One user said he heard voices through the sewer grate behind the church. Another posted an old map showing access points beneath the city. I had to see it. On a rainy Friday night in April, and I parked 2 blocks away, wearing a waterproof coat and headlamp. The streets were quiet, the streetlights flickering like they knew I shouldn't be there. I found the entrance exactly where the anonymous poster said, a broken drainage tunnel behind the overgrown church garden. It reeked of rust and rot, but curiosity drove me forward. 10 minutes in, I knew I had passed the point of return. The tunnel sloped downward, growing colder, tighter, the walls sweating moisture like skin. That's when I found the door, an actual wooden door, rotted, nailed shut with rusted hinges. But something strange stopped me in my tracks. It was warm. The wood was warm to the touch, despite the freezing air around me. I backed up instinctively, then pressed my ear to the door. Whispers, not in English. Low, wet sounds. Dozens of voices. Then, it stopped. I should have left. Any sane person would have. Possession is a drug, and I was deep in it. I broke the door down with a crowbar and stepped inside. The room beyond was a long hallway, lined with decaying wooden pews. Crosses hung upside down on every wall. What was left of the floor was slick with black sludge that clung to my boots. A thick, meaty smell filled the air like something had died a long time ago and kept rotting, regenerating. There were scratches on the walls, deep gouges, some looking fresh, symbols, some pagan, some I'd never seen before. My flashlight flickered once, twice, then cut out completely. Panic hit me like a punch. Okay. I smacked the flashlight against my palm, and when it finally turned on again, something stood at the end of the hallway. Not human. It was tall, skinless, its body quivering, as though it were breathing through every pore. Its head was too large, its mouth gaping open like a snake's, with teeth that looked like broken glass. But what terrified me the most, T was wearing a priest's collar around its exposed neck. It didn't move, not a twitch. But I swear it saw me. It knew I was there. I backed up, slowly, until I found a side room. I slipped inside and slammed the door shut as quietly as I could. I found myself in what looked like a choir room. Rows of chairs were half collapsed, sheet music shredded and strewn everywhere. But the air in here was ... off. A cold wind blew from vents in the floor except there was no power. Then the door began to shake, not violently, but rhythmically, like it was being knocked on to a beat. Tap, 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 tap. I couldn't breathe. My mouth was dry. I couldn't even pray. I just stood frozen as the tapping stopped. Silence then. A low growled guttural deep. It's vibrating through the walls. I ran. I don't remember much from that last stretch of the tunnel. It's just flashes turning corners too fast, hitting my head, slipping in sludge. But I remember the sounds behind me. Hoofs clacking, wet footsteps, screaming, in my own voice, but I wasn't the one screaming. Something was mimicking me, shouting things I didn't say. Why did I come here? You can't leave. He's watching you, Jacob. That last part stopped me cold. No one knew my name. Not from any of my accounts. I always used a handle. K. I never shared personal info online, not in tags. But that voice, that thing knew. Finally, I saw the broken wooden door I had first entered. A T, but it was shut now. Repaired. The nails back in place. I grabbed at it, slamming my fists, screaming. Behind me, I heard the wet clicking of bone on stone, coming closer. Then, a whisper in my ear directly behind me. Go back to your seat. Mass isn't over yet. With a roar of panic, I kicked at the side wall, breaking through rotted plaster and crawling into a tiny side shaft. My flashlight gave out completely. I had to crawl for what felt like hours, scraping my knees, covered in filth and blood. I emerged in the church garden somehow. The tunnel was gone behind me, collapsed or sealed. I ran to my car and didn't stop driving until I was miles away. Epilogue: that was 4 weeks ago. Since then, strange things have happened. Voices in the night. My name written in condensation on the mirror. Music choir, music playing from my phone with no apps open. And every night at exactly 3 a.m., I hear tapping on the window. Tap, 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 tap. I covered the mirror. I threw out my old clothes. But I can't get rid of the feeling that I brought something back with me. That I never truly left that place, because last night I woke up with my boots covered in black sludge, and under my bed, scratched into the floorboards, were the words, "Welcome back to the sanctum." I've done dozens of urban explorations, high-rises, abandoned malls, cotton amusement parks, never once felt true fear. Until the night we explored the Whitlock Tower in Detroit. The Whitlock wasn't your typical crumbling ruin. It had been evacuated in 2009 after a partial fire destroyed several upper floors. The K's, half condemned. It stood like a blackened tooth on the skyline, 35 stories of rot and broken promises. I went with 2 friends, Marco, quiet guy with a drone and nerves of steel, and Tess, a medic who joined us for safety, though she was more daring than both of us combined. We planned it for weeks, mapped entry routes, timed security rotations. Everyone said the 30th floor and up were sealed, dead zones. Even the fire department refused to enter after a 2013 incident, which, of course, made it irresistible. We got in through the underground garages. The stairwell reeked of mildew and rusted metal. Every floor was worse than the last. Mold-covered desks, shattered windows, graffiti screaming "Get out" in red spray. I was filming everything on my handheld. We reached the 28th floor by midnight. That's when Marco found the elevator shaft door ajar, partially rusted open. Tess slid through before we could stop her. She called out that the service ladder inside went all the way up. I'll never forget the sound her voice made when she said it to Eager. Too hollow. We followed. Asterisk, asterisk, the 33rd floor was too intact. The walls were clean. No graffiti, no mold. But the air smelled like chemicals and something sharp. Like iron. My flashlight reflected off polished floors and doors that looked recently painted. It didn't match the decay below. Marco muttered something about how this wasn't right. Tess was already ahead, peering into room 331, a former executive suite. The door creaked open by itself when she touched it. Inside was a perfectly preserved room. Leather chairs, desk, dustless carpet, on the wall, dozens of framed photographs. But when we looked closer, they weren't landscapes or portraits. They were faces, screaming, all blurred or warped. Every one of them was looking directly at the door. Tess stepped in. Marco told her to stop, but she didn't listen. Then the door slammed shut behind her. I tried to open it, shouting her name. She didn't respond. I pressed my ear to the door at first silence, then shuffling, followed by a soft, wet chewing sound. Then Tess's voice, low, broken. "Don't come in. He's here. He's wearing my skin." T backed up. Marco didn't believe it. He tried to kick the door in. Nothing worked. Then we heard it footsteps, but not from inside room 331. From behind us. From behind us. From the ceiling. Asterisk, down the hallway. Into the stairwell. But the stairwell wasn't the same. The graffiti was gone. The walls were new. The stairs looked unused. And every floor we passed said 33.33. 33. We ran down 10 flights. Still 33. Marco tried to break open one of the emergency fire doors. It opened into blackness, complete void. Not even a wall behind it. Like the world had been deleted. We kept descending. The light from our flashlights dimmed, as if being absorbed. And then we saw it. A man, standing upside down on the stairwell ceiling, his limbs too long, joints bending backward, wearing what looked like a human skin, inside out. I saw Tess's boots on its feet. It opened its mouth, and 3 voices came out. Mine, Marco's, and Tess's. One left. Marco charged it. I screamed for him to stop, but the thing opened its arms and swallowed him. It's like fabric folding in on itself. I ran down until my legs gave out. T cried, begged. T. At some point, I passed out. When I woke up, I was outside lying in the parking lot behind Whitlock Tower. No Marco, no Tess. My camera was gone. The timestamp on my phone was 2 days ahead. I reported them missing. The police said Whitlock Tower had been fenced off for years. No way in. They didn't believe a word of my story. I tried to go back a week later. Couldn't even find the garage door we used. Sealed in concrete. Every window above floor 29. Bricked in. But sometimes, when I walk past it at night, I swear I see Tess at the 33rd window, waving backwards. People always assume urban explorers are just thrill seekers with cameras. Maybe that's true for some. But for me, it was different. I explored to document the unseen layers of the city's forgotten histories, places time didn't bother to finish erasing. That's what drew me to the Wexler Building, downtown Chicago. A crumbling 18-story office tower that was condemned after a suspicious basement fire in 2004. The top floors were gutted. The lower floors were sealed by the city. Rumor was that the fire revealed something hidden beneath the foundations. Something not listed on any blueprint. I went alone. I got in through a side entrance. Someone had pried the steel shutters open just wide enough to squeeze through. Inside, it was dust, darkness, and the stink of old ash. My flashlight beam danced across charred cubicles and half-melted signage. I passed floor after floor until I found what I came for. The original elevator, completely intact, untouched by fire, which was odd. Everything else was destroyed. The panel still had power. The buttons glowed faintly. There were no floor numbers, just one brass button at the bottom labeled 3 basements. Don't go that deep here, especially not in old buildings like Wexler. I should have walked away. I should have taken a photo and left. Instead, I pressed it. The doors closed silently, and the car began descending much longer than it should have. Asterisk, when the elevator stopped, the air changed. It wasn't just cold, it was hollow, like there was too much space around me. The doors opened to reveal a dark corridor lined with thick concrete walls. No signage, no markings. It smelled like metal and something faintly sweet like rotting fruit. I stepped out. My flashlight flickered. I checked the battery. Full. Still flickering. The hallway led to a round chamber circular, with rusted metal doors evenly spaced around it, like a clock face. Each door was bolted shut from the outside, except one. Door 6. It was ajar. S. I approached. A sound echoed from inside. Not a scream, not even a voice. A recording. Warped, playing over and over. The body does not belong to you. Return what you took. Turn what you took. My breath caught. I turned to leave, but the elevator door was gone. Gone. Just wall now. Then I heard something behind me slow, dragging footsteps. I whipped around, no one, but the door to room 6 was now wide open. Inside was only darkness and something breathing. Not human. Not animal. Something. Old. I backed away, shaking. The breathing turned to a whisper. You're in my place now. Chamber spun. I swear it did. The doors around me blurred, their numbers shifting. The air felt thick. I dropped to my knees, and the whisper grew louder, right next to my ear. Let me wear your voice. Asterisk. I don't know how long I was down there. Hours? A day? At some point, I blacked out. When I came to, I was lying on the floor of the Wexler lobby. My camera was gone. My phone screen was cracked, stuck on a static-filled video of the elevator button being pressed over and over. I stumbled outside. Everything looked off. The streets were empty. Streetlights blinked like strobe lights. My watch said 3:33 a.m., but no matter how long I walked, it never changed. Eventually, I found my way home. Or what looked like home. My apartment was different. My furniture was rearranged. My neighbor man I've known for 4 years stared at me like he didn't recognize me. Said my unit had been vacant for months. But it is my home. It smells like it. My key works. The only thing that's off besides everything is the mirror. It doesn't show me. It shows a version of me. But the reflection is always just a little behind. Like it's watching, not copying. And sometimes, it smiles when I'm not smiling. 3 nights ago, I woke up to static on the TV, no power connected. The screen flashed a room with rusted doors, then a face, lies, except the eyes were gone. Last night, I found a note under my pillow, scrawled in red ink, shaky handwriting. You left the door open. Now you live on both sides. Now, every time I close my eyes, I hear that voice again. Let me wear your voice. And lately, when I speak, Taya doesn't always sound like me. I didn't believe in anything paranormal until May 18th, 2024, a day I explored the Atlas paper mill near Salem, Oregon. Addenda had been urbexing since 2020 abandoned hospitals, Connells, but nothing ever really scared me. Not until that mill. The Atlas site was closed in the early 90s after a boiler explosion killed 6 workers in the lower processing unit. The place had a bad reputation even among other explorers. People said they'd see red mist inside or hear screams through the ventilation. Most assumed it was a cracked pipe or raccoons. But I assumed the same. I went in alone, during overcast daylight. The outside was all rusted metal and shredded tarp. My camera started glitching before I even stepped in. But I ignored a typical interference. The first 3 levels were typical decay, broken conveyor belts, dated chemical drums, paper, sludge turned to stone. But then I found a metal spiral staircase tucked behind a boiler shell. It wasn't on any blueprint I'd seen. I double-checked the old site plans I downloaded. Nothing, of course. I went down. That was my first mistake. The deeper I went, the thicker the air got. My flashlight caught something strange on the concrete wall strips. Fresh ones. Red dot, it looked like blood. Then the smell hit me. Not old rot. It's fresh copper. And when I turned off my light for just a second, the entire stairwell filled with red fog. Asterisk at the bottom. There was no typical basement floor. No machinery. It's just a long corridor of crumbling offices. Paper stuck to the walls like skin, some still fluttering in stale air. At the far end of the hall, I found a door. It's carved into it, not spray painted, carved with something sharp were the words, "They still work below." I hesitated, but my brain said, "It's just old graffiti. Keep filming." I opened the door. Inside was a cavernous space, a circular chamber with pipes running like veins overhead. But it was the figures that made my legs nearly give out. They looked like people, 20, maybe 30 of them, but not alive. Burnt silhouettes. Charred black, frozen mid-task, some holding phantom tools, others hunched over invisible machines. I thought they were statues, until one of them twitched. Then another turned its head toward me. I saw empty sockets where eyes should have been. Their mouths were stuck in permanent gasps. I ran. I don't even remember turning around. Just sprinted back into the hallway. But the hallway wasn't there anymore. It was replaced with another chamber. And on the wall, in dripping red, was written, "Work begins at midnight." My watch said 11:57 p.m., and behind me, I heard the hiss of steam and the soft clang of machinery powering back up. Asterisk, I don't remember how I got out. All I know is I woke up in my car, parked 2 blocks from the mill. It was 6:14 a.m., the door wide open, my camera missing, and my clothes damp with what looked like blood. I drove home shaking. I tried to tell myself I had a seizure. Or I hallucinated. Maybe some industrial gas leaked down there. Then the messages started. Photos sent to my phone. Blurry. Too dark. But in each one, tree. I'm there in the background, wearing one of their jumpsuits, standing in line. Face blank. The final photo I got 2 nights ago shows me standing behind myself. My own back turned to the lens. That same night, I started waking up with my hands stained red. No cuts, no explanation. I haven't been able to sleep through the night since. Every midnight, I hear it. The shift bell, a low metallic dong, echoing through my apartment vents. And last night, scrawled on my bathroom mirror in something sticky, were the words, "You were hired. Why did you leave?" I don't think the mill let me go. I think it let me out, so I can recruit. And tonight, I feel it. Midnight is calling, and I have to clock in. I've always been drawn to places people aren't supposed to go. It's not about the thrill. It's more about finding what's left behind. I document abandoned places, old power stations, flood tunnels, ghost towns. But nothing stuck with me like Elliott Grove Psychiatric Hospital, just outside of Grand Junction, Colorado. The place had been shuttered since the early 70s after a series of mysterious deaths. 6 patients vanished. 2 nurses died of accidents. The whole thing was buried. Literally, the state filled parts of the basement in with concrete. The site was fenced off, locked, monitored. Rumors flew, satanic rituals, government experiments. The works. Naturally, I wanted in. April 3rd, 2024. I went alone, stupid. I know, but no one would come with me. I found a gap in the chain link fence behind a collapsed drainage trench. Slipped through just before dark. The building loomed like a giant broken rib cage against the sky. Windows were jagged teeth. Doors hung on single hinges. The inside was worse. Ceiling tiles fell like soft bones. Wallpaper peeled in strips like molted skin. But it wasn't until I passed the children's ward that I started hearing them whispers. At first I thought it was the wind or my own breath bouncing off the walls, but they were words, not mine, not from my head. Don't go down, don't go down, don't go down. They were begging me, and I kept walking. There was a stairwell near the east wing blocked by debris, but just enough room to squeeze through. It led to the lower containment level, a part of the hospital that hadn't been seen by the public in decades. This wasn't some basement utility space. This was where they kept the patients the staff called the dead silent ones. Ty pushed open a rusted metal door that led into a hallway. Red exit signs flickered above. Everything smelled like mold and blood. Not rust blood. Started filming. That's when I noticed my camera's battery drop from 90% to 5% in a second. Then it died completely. No lights, no power. Just my flashlight and the thin, going sound of water dripping somewhere deep inside. I reached a room labeled B for 2 door chained shut from the outside, but the chain was snapped. Inside was a single iron chair, bolted to the center of the floor. The walls were covered in writing, dozens of phrases. Same words over and over, etched into plaster with what looked like fingernails. Greater than I am not me. I am not me. I am not me. Suddenly, the temperature dropped. My breath fogged in front of me. Then, a whisper right next to my ear. He still lives in the walls. I turned around fast. No one was there. But the chair was facing me now. It hadn't been before. I backed out slowly, never turning my back on that room again. And as I left the hallway, something touched my neck, cold and wet, like fingers brushing upward. I don't remember leaving the asylum. The next thing I knew, I was sitting in my car with the door open, parked on the side of the highway at 2:17 a.m. No memory of walking back through the forest. My hands were shaking. I had deep scratches down my arms I hadn't noticed before. I should have burned the clothes I wore. I should have deleted the footage from my backup cam. My curiosity got the better of me. I reviewed the thermal backup footage the next day. At first, static. Then grainy images of the basement, before 2-2, the chair, and behind me, captured on a single frame, was a figure, vague, gray, impossibly tall, with no face, just a smooth stretch of flesh where features should be. Its arms stretched outward, and it was leaning toward me. Frame by frame, it followed me out. I haven't slept well since. Every night, around 3 a.m., I wake up drenched in sweat. Not from a nightmare, but because I hear scratching in the walls behind my bed. It's the same words. I am not me. And worse, my reflection is delayed. Like it thinks before copying me. A week ago, I woke to find myself standing at the foot of my bed, watching myself sleep. The mirror caught it all. I know how insane this sounds. I tried to burn the camera. It showed back up in my mailbox too. Days later, still warm. Now I think whatever was down there in B4-2 didn't possess me. I think it copied me, and now it's just waiting for me to get tired enough to let it finish what it started.